Hello everyone, we are solving today's Clues by Sam. If you don't know what Clues by Sam is, it is a daily logic puzzle game where you have 20 people and they may be criminals or innocents, and you gotta use the clues that they themselves give you to do no guessing but figure out who is what. And they get harder along the week. We have a medium one today, it is a Wednesday, and I can see Gabe's clue already, so let's start today's. Well, Gabe tells us that there are more criminals than innocents to the right of Frank. And to the right of Frank is Gabe himself. So any of the other people to the right of him cannot be innocents, because that will make it so there will be more innocents than criminals, since there's only 3 people total. So both Henry and Jane are criminal. We already know that, and Gabe's clue doesn't make anything for us anymore. Now, Henry tells us there's an odd number of innocents to the right of Karen. Okay, so there's either 1 or 3 innocents to the right of Karen. We don't know how many yet. And Jane tells us there are exactly 2 innocents in row 3. Oh, so since we know there's an odd number of innocents to the right of Karen, and there can't be 3, because there are only 2 innocents in row 3, there has to be only 1. And where can the other innocent in row 3 go? If there can only be 1 among these people, Karen has to be the other one. So Karen is an innocent. Now Karen tells us that row 3 has more innocents than any other row. And we know that row 3 has only 2 innocents. So row 2 cannot have 2 innocents. So that tells us that Frank is a criminal. And any other column, any other row can only have 1 innocent at most. So we gotta keep that in mind. Frank tells us that Larry and Wally share an innocent neighbor. Wally is here, Larry is here, and they share 3 neighbors total: Olaf, Pam, and Ruth. So one of these people is an innocent. But what's interesting is that tells us that there's 1 innocent here. So Susan cannot be an innocent, because that will make it so row 4 has 2 innocents, and we just established that no rows other than row 3 can have 2 innocents or more. So Susan is a criminal. Nice. So Susan's telling us there's an odd number of innocents neighboring the roof in row 5. Ruth has 8 neighbors total, and in row 5 she has 3. And, well, we know there's 1 innocent here. There couldn't be 3, because the only possible odd numbers that of neighbors that Ruth could have in row 5 would be 1 or 3. But we know that she can even have 2 innocent neighbors in row 5, because we already know that no rows other than row 3 can have 2 or more innocents. So there's only 1 innocent here. And since we know that there is 1 innocent here neighboring Ruth, Vance is a criminal. So that's the same logic going sort of roping down here, which is interesting. Vance tells us there is only 1 innocent in between Olaf and Susan. So same logic again, that tells us that Olaf is a criminal, and either Pam or Ruth is the single innocent in this row. Now Olaf tells us that all criminals in row 3 are connected. So there are exactly 2 innocents in row 3, and all criminals in row 3 are connected. Well, if there's 2 criminals in row 3, they have to be either Mary and Larry or Mary and Nicole. So in any case, Mary is a criminal. And either Larry or Nicole is an innocent. Now Mary tells us that Ruth and Xavier have 2 innocent neighbors in common. Xavier is here. And Ruth, well, we know that Ruth has 1 innocent neighbor in column 5, in row 5, sorry. And the only way for her and Xavier to share 2 neighbors is for Xavier to be a criminal. And Ruth as well. Because there can't be 2 innocents in any row. So both Ruth and Xavier are criminals and Pam is an innocent. Nice. Now Xavier, and we know that either Wally or Zara are a innocent. And we know that either Wally or Zara are an innocent. Now, Xavier tells us there's an odd number of innocent neighboring Donna. Donna is up here. And for her to have an odd number of innocent neighbors, that would, with the neighbors that we can still figure out, that would have to be either 1 or 3. If both Bonnie and Ethan were to be innocent. But we know that row 1 can't have 2 innocents. So Gabe is the only innocent neighbor that Donna has. And both Bonnie and Ethan are criminal. And that clue was Xavier's. Yeah. We don't need that anymore. But now Ethan tells us that Henry and Xavier have an equal number of innocent neighbors. Well, we know that Xavier has 2 innocent neighbors because either Wally or Zara are an innocent, and Pam is a second innocent neighbor of his. So Henry has to have 2 innocent neighbors. And that tells us that Donna is a criminal because Henry already has 1 innocent neighbor, which is Gabe, and he's gonna have another one, either Larry or Nicole. So Donna has to be a criminal, and we don't need Ethan's clue anymore. Now Donna tells us there are 5 innocents in total, and we already have all of them: Gabe, Karen, Pam, and 2 more in here. So Austin is also a criminal, and we don't need Donna's clue anymore. Now, Austin tells us there are more criminal clerks than criminal sleuths. We have 3 sleuths, and of the ones we found out already, each of them is a criminal and the other an innocent. Are the clerks. We have Jane, a clerk, Nicole, any other clerks out there? Zara. Interesting. So we have an X-wing here. Do we? What's the clue? There are more criminal clerks than criminal sleuths. If Larry were to be a criminal, we would have 2 criminal sleuths. And that can't happen because in that case, we would have to have 3 criminal clerks. Because the clerks have to be criminal in more number than the sleuths. And we can't have all clerks be criminal if Larry is a criminal. Because if Larry is a criminal, Nicole, who is a clerk, has to be an innocent. So that tells us that Larry is an innocent, Nicole is a criminal. And now Nicole tells us that Vance and Bonnie have an equal number of innocent neighbors. Where's Bonnie? Bonnie is here, and they only have 1 innocent neighbor, which is Gabe. So Vance can only have one innocent neighbor, which has to be Pam, who is already an innocent. So Wally is a criminal and Zara is an innocent. And we are done. Nice, an all green one. Finally, it has been days since I had an all green one. So we are back in the game. Solved in less than 11 minutes. And yeah, pretty happy with that. That will be it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it. I will be back tomorrow with more Clues by Sam, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to see that. If you play the puzzle, let me know your results. You can comment them down below or skip them to me on Blue Sky. I have a link in the description, and see you tomorrow.